Hey there, fellow marketers, Professor Wolters here, and today we're going to talk about our legal and ethical ramifications on pricing that marketers need to know, because there are some legal issues you might want to think about when you're setting your price. You can't just charge people different prices because you don't like them. There's things you have to think about, but also there's ethical issues out there too that we really need to consider as marketers when we do set our prices, okay? And the first one I want to talk about is actually price discrimination. And price discrimination is when you basically set a price for one group and set a price for a different group, a different price for a different group for no discernible reason, okay? You can't be like, well, the people in the gray shirts, I'm gonna charge them double the price, but the people in the orange shirts, I'm gonna give them half price off. You can't do that, see? You can't do that. And so you have to realize it's very much an illegal thing in most places. Now you may say, but Mark, I see price discrimination all the time. I go to the movie theaters. They've got one price for adults, one price for students, one price for kids, one price for senior citizens, maybe another price for active duty military. What's about that? Well, the thing is some price discrimination is legal, but not any kind of price discrimination. So it can't just be some indiscriminate thing. So you do have to know that. So that's one kind of issue you need to think about. Now, the next one I want to talk about is what's called loss leader pricing. Now, we talked about leader pricing in another video where you have a product that leads people in your store, kind of stuff like that. But a loss leader is when you're charging below cost for this product to lead people into your store to get them to buy. And that could be really troublesome because if you get caught doing that, selling under cost, to do that, you can get in big trouble for it. But the thing is, it's very hard to prove. And the thing is, when you have these leader prices where you might leader price, you price at cost, loss leader, you price in below cost. Since it's really kind of tough to really get that final, what it really does cost to do the loss leader pricing, it's very difficult for the government to really prove. So it's more of an ethical issue that you have to look at. It's like, if we're doing under cost, why are we doing that? Is it just bring customers in, or are we trying to drive our competition out of business? Because that's the next thing you have to look at. And that's predatory pricing. That is when you set your prices artificially low in order to drive your competition out of business. Again, the thing is, though, it's really hard to know what the costs are to make products. And so it's very hard to prove for the government unless there's an email that says, destroy them, we're going to lower our prices to destroy our competition. Well, then you're in trouble. Then you're gonna get a big fine. Somebody might go to jail. You have those kind of things. You have to think about that. So predatory pricing is not good. And what you'll see sometimes, and you'll hear in the news, is this word called dumping. And dumping is when one country accuses another country of just selling a bunch of the products in their, like, the foreign country is selling a bunch of their foreign-made products in the local country, but at below cost. So they can kind of just dump it there and get rid of it. And a lot of times they do that in order to, stifle the market and the economy in that home country. Because then why would anybody buy the 2 times the price product made in the US versus the half price one made in some other country? They probably wouldn't. And that might hurt the development of that industry. That's why there's a lot of legal ramifications here. A lot of trade fights go on about this dumping idea, that they're selling below cost in order to drive out of business or to really, destroy an industry in a country. So it is kind of a really big legal and ethical thing to think about, because should we sell it that low to destroy those people's potential jobs? I mean, there's a lot of things you really have to think about. Another thing you want to talk about is price fixing. Now, you have what's called vertical price fixing and horizontal price fixing. Now, I've got 2 long videos that kind of go over these where I'm really skinny, so you might have a laugh at that one. But the basics of it are horizontal price fixing. That is when everybody on the same level of supply chain are working together to control pricing. So this would be all the gas stations in your hometown decide, we're going to work together and we're going to charge $10 a gallon for gas versus the usual $3.50 that you're seeing at market pricing. The reason they would do that is, hey, we can control that market, we can make more money, this is going to be good for the business because we're going to be doing great. But the thing is, it's horrible for consumers. That's why it is illegal, okay? So horizontal, they're on the same supply chain line, the same level, okay? It's competitors working together to set prices. Very, 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 very bad, okay? Now, and illegal, but also kind of tough to prove. Another one you see of price fixing, what's called vertical price fixing. This is different levels of the supply chain. So the supplier and the retailer are working together to have artificially high prices to the end customer. So this would be a farmer saying, I'm going to charge you a $10,000 per bag of potatoes, so you have to then pass on that higher price to your end customers that buy French fries. So we're artificially creating these higher prices, and that is also illegal. So you do see that sometimes, and supply chains will artificially fix those things. But again, very, very difficult to prove, okay? And the thing is we as marketers have other ethical issues we have to think about, because if you look at what's called value-based pricing, well, how you price based on how people value it. The thing is, how much do I value a longer battery life, right? I value it worth another 30 bucks, 40 bucks on my phone, I'm willing to pay more than that. But what if you're a pharmaceutical company and you sell a drug that keeps people alive? Well, you'll pay anything for that. And that's why you might see occasional price gouging in pharmaceuticals and medicine, because they know you're going to pay whatever it takes because you have to have this to survive. And so that's where there's some really big ethical issues here, because we know people are willing to pay more for it, but is it right for us to charge that much? And this is a really big issue that marketers have to deal with. And also there's the legal ramifications, because if you are price gouging, well, then you can get really big trouble for that. You can go to jail, which we've also seen, happen occasionally as well. And then there's other ethical things you might look at, like how do you set your pricing when it's for a school or a nonprofit? Do you give them lower prices, that price discrimination kind of stuff? Is that something we're going to do? Or do we donate products to causes? Because that's another thing we have to think about in terms of pricing that's illegal. Pricing for it is we're giving it away, so it's free. How do we do that? How do we transfer price that? I mean, there's all kinds of ethical and legal ramifications we have to think about when we're looking at pricing. It's not just charge $1 on the dollar menu and we're done. We have to think about these things. And speaking of that dollar menu, here's another ethical issue marketers might have. How do we price for people that can't afford our products? Do we develop a new product at that cheaper price point, or do we develop packaging that will work in that cheaper price point? Because people might not be able to afford one size container or something like that. Maybe we have the economy size that's smaller so people can get at least a little bit of that product, so that's why you'll see they have the big huge bottles of whiskey, and sometimes they have the little tiny ones that you'll have for the plane. Yeah, it's for the smaller price point. I mean, is that necessarily ethical? I don't know, but it is one thing that we as marketers have to think about, is how do we price so people can afford our product that need it? I don't know if you always need whiskey, but you get my point. Anyway, so those are just some legal and ethical aspects of pricing I think all marketers should think about here at the principles of marketing level, the basics level. There's a lot more to know about pricing. We have tons of videos on it to help people out, from the basic kind of stuff to more advanced kind of pricing models. So I hope you'll stay on our channel, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and we'll see you later. And I'll say bye from here in Santa Fe.